Hey everybody, my name is Nate and welcome to the BC Wheelchair Sports Show, where we shine a light on the athletes, coaches, volunteers, and community members that make BC Wheelchair Sports so great, and also discuss the issues relating to BC Wheelchair Sports and parasport as a whole. Today, I'm very fortunate to be joined by uh, Provincial Wheelchair Rugby Team member, Brandon Perger. Thanks for joining us today, Brandon. How you doing?
No worries, man. I'm happy to be here on the interview. I'm doing well, thanks. Just kind of training and stuff and enjoying the nice Okanagan weather.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, you've been involved in wheelchair rugby for a few years now. Would
Mhm.
you mind just telling us how you got started in this sport?
Yeah, so I initially just started playing sledge hockey and wheelchair tennis. And I guess just through the grapevine in town, the local rugby coach kind of heard that I was a young guy out playing sports, and he asked me to come out and play wheelchair rugby. And I was a little bit hesitant to jump back into team sports again, but I found out that some new friends that I had made up at UBCO were also going to go out and give it a try. So I figured that I would join them, and we all went out to practice together, and the rest is history, really.
Nice. Now, you mentioned you were a little bit hesitant to get back into team sports. Was there a specific reason for that?
Yeah, so before I got sick with bacterial meningitis, I was a junior hockey player. So I had invested a lot of time into obviously team sport hockey for years and years. And to kind of lose hockey the way I did and kind of not get to see things through, I didn't want to commit to another team sport because it was still kind of a soft spot for me.
All right. And now, so you were saying when you did first go out, though, you had a really positive experience. Um,
Yeah.
can you talk to me a bit about that first experience and what specifically it was about it that made you decide to come back?
Well, first off, everyone that was out at that practice, everyone was really friendly and inviting. It made me feel comfortable, and just throughout the practice, I had a lot of fun. And I think that's the most important part. The aspect of fun kind of kept me coming back. And then as I learned a little bit more about the game and kind of got a little bit maybe more aggressive and got to hit and experience contact again, similar to like the physical nature of hockey. It just felt like a natural fit for me, and I wanted to go to every practice and just continue to develop in the sport.
Nice. And now, obviously, through your first 2 years playing, you've started to become um, a lot more of a developed athlete. You're taking it a lot more seriously these days, and you're really pursuing the competitive opportunities.
Yeah.
What was it that made you decide that you wanted to become a more competitive wheelchair rugby player?
Well, growing up, I've always been involved in high level sports. So to find another high level sport such as wheelchair rugby after getting sick, I just kind of felt at home, and it just kind of felt like a natural fit for me. So after the first few practices that I went to, and then like as I developed through the first year and went to my first nationals, I realized that this was something that I could kind of take to the next level, and I kind of had natural skills in. So it felt right to uh, get back into training and really push things to see where I could take it.
Nice. And I know in that first year, you spent the year kind of playing with the Okanagan club, and then you competed with the BC development team. And
Yeah.
you had quite the exciting first season, in fact, where you were named Rookie of the Year at Nationals.
Yeah.
And you were playing on a team with a good mix of kind of young players and a few vets, like Rod Bitts, who's been around forever.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you attending your first national championships in wheelchair rugby, and did it change your perspective on the sport at all?
Yeah, so I just remember arriving at that first nationals, and I just had that feeling like I was back at like a hockey tournament when I was younger, like a big hockey tournament, and getting to play in really competitive wheelchair rugby games. It definitely changed my mindset of the sport, and how similar it is to any able-bodied sport, really. And then so yeah, I played on the B team. That nationals, and then I also got to watch the A team compete and seeing guys like Mike Whitehead play and Zach Liddell play. It was just incredible. I was just mind blown at what some of these guys could do in their chairs. And that was a big inspiration for me moving forward to want to push to get to that level.
Awesome. And I know one thing you've talked about a lot is how when you bring up your rugby career, you talk a lot about how it reminded you of your time playing hockey and some of your experiences there. And I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, was there anything that you were able to take from your hockey career that's helped you in rugby, or any similarities between the two sports that you've noticed? Because a lot of, especially in Canada, a lot of wheelchair rugby players talk about how they feel like there's a similarity between hockey and wheelchair rugby, which might be strange to the average viewer who's just coming into rugby for the first time.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I could take from playing junior hockey was the commitment level. So when I was playing, I was in the gym every day. I had practice every day, and that was just a regular thing. So and that was to obviously improve myself and then hopefully make the jump to the next level the following year for hockey. And I can really attribute that to training in wheelchair rugby. It takes the same amount of dedication and sacrifice to improve. So I'm in the gym every day. I'm training in my rugby chair a few times a week. And just by doing that back in the day for junior hockey, I'm used to the same kind of routine now with rugby, and I really enjoy it just as much as I did before. So I think that's why I've kind of been able to make the jump that I have so far.
Nice. And another big thing, in rugby is the fact that it has that team atmosphere, and
Mhm.
you're in a non-COVID world. You get to be around teammates a lot,
Yeah,
and coaches who kind of guide you. Has
yeah.
there been any teammates or coaches who you've really learned a lot from early on in your rugby career so far?
I mean, there's so many people that have positively impacted me and influenced me since I started, but um, a big influencer for me early on was Ian Chan. He was my first provincial coach, and he really helped me get used to the routines of being on the provincial team as far as like travel and commitments. And at that time, I had not traveled in a wheelchair at all. So I was kind of nervous about these things. And he always made himself available for me to talk to and voice any concerns that I had. And he would take time out of his day to reach out to me and ask if I was doing okay, just in life in general. And then also, how I was feeling about rugby. So feeling comfortable in those early stages really helped me kind of push forward and continue to develop as a player.
Nice.
And also on the training end of things, obviously when I was first playing, I was just basically just showing up to practice and then going to our local tournaments here. But a player from Quebec, Guillaume Bouchard, who plays on the B and A team, depending, he also comes to Kelowna, and he kind of introduced me to a little bit more training, outside the practice environment and spending a little bit more time in my chair, working on cardio and speed and strength. And he also, he made it fun for me as well. So that kind of introduced me more to the aspect of, putting in extra work to get better at the sport.
Nice. And now, obviously, you're on the provincial team. You've been on the team for a couple of years now. How did you find that jump from the development team and D2, up to the provincial team and D1, where you're playing against national team players pretty regularly? What
Yeah.
was that experience like for you? And do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Well, I know when I started in D2, like right away, my goal was, I wanted to get to the D1 team. I wasn't necessarily expecting it to happen as quickly as it did, but I'm glad it happened. The biggest difference for me from D2 to D1 is the speed. Um, the speed and the pace of the game at a D1 level is a lot quicker, and there's less of a window to make decisions. So you really have to be thinking quickly, and you have to make these decisions quickly with the ball or with your chair if you want to be successful. And playing against all these other national team athletes, obviously they've been around the game for a while, and then they know the game well. So they really make it difficult on you as a new player to perform. So initially the jump was tough, but I think just like with anything, the more time you spend playing against these guys, the better you develop yourself.
Awesome. And it's interesting that you bring up like playing against different people and how that's made you develop more. Now in your short rugby career so far, are there any athletes that you kind of look to model your game after? I know you're a 3'5",
Yeah.
so you're a high pointer, you're a guy that has to carry the ball a lot, and you're quite a big guy. So has there been anyone that you've looked to who you can be like, oh yeah, I like how they play. I feel like I could take some pointers from them.
Yeah, for me, right off the bat, it was Mike Whitehead. There's similarities between the two of us in the fact that we're both big guys, and we demand space on the floor. I know that he likes to play a physical game and be a physical presence out there, and that's something that I like to do as well to wear down the other team. And Mike Whitehead's also a great passer, and he's really good at controlling the ball. So those are two things that I like to try to model my game around as well. I want to be able to control the ball and make good passes, maybe to get the team out of trouble, and also just because we're tall, two tall guys, where we can make ourselves available to receive passes as well by getting ourselves in good spots on the court. So I know when I'm watching video, I'm watching Mike to see what he's doing, and hopefully I can imitate that when I'm on the floor as well.
Cool. And for any of you who don't know, Mike Whitehead is a multiple-time Paralympian and still current member of the Canadian national wheelchair rugby team. He's a fantastic athlete and he's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So definitely Google him if you haven't had the chance. We might at some point manage to get some athletes from other provinces on the show, so we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
the other thing about Mike is not only is he a great athlete, but he's an even better person. So, like you said, he's a pretty big member of Team Canada, and multiple Paralympics and whatnot. And he still makes time to talk to everyone. So not only do I like to model my game around him on the court, but I like to try to be similar to him off the court as well.
that's fantastic. And now, kind of going into more your competitive experiences and your highlights from competition. In your 4 years playing rugby, has there been any tournaments or experiences that have really stuck out to you as memorable in your mind?
Yeah, so the 2018 Nationals in Calgary obviously will always be a memorable one for me, given that it was my first Nationals, and winning Canadian Rookie of the Year. So that's always special thinking back to that time. But more recently, I went to Prague for Rugby Mania, which is a big international tournament over there with the Canadian development team, and that was such a memorable trip, and it's such an honor to be asked to go on that trip. I learned so much not only on the rugby court playing against other international athletes, but also in the realm of travel. Going overseas, dealing with time zones, and learning how to conduct myself in those environments. Yeah, I during this COVID break, I think back to my trip to Prague pretty fondly, and I'm just hoping that one day I can get back there and have the opportunity to play in that tournament again.
Nice. And speaking of COVID times, how have you been staying fit and staying active during these times? Are you still training quite a bit or hitting the gym as much as you can, given restrictions?
Yeah, so fortunate for me, living in Kelowna in BC, the restrictions here haven't been as bad as like Ontario or Quebec. So fortunately for me, the gym that I train at has been the track's been open, so I've been able to train just as much or maybe even more than when there wasn't COVID. There's just a little bit more time for me, so training hasn't changed a whole lot. I'm still, like I said, I'm in the gym almost, I'd say, like 3 to 4 times a week, and then I'm also in my chair a couple times a week. So I'm still training as much as I've ever been, and as good as it is for me physically, during these tough times, being able to train and take those 2 hours a day to kind of forget about things has also been great for me mentally. So I'm very fortunate that that things have been able to continue for me like that.
Nice. And I guess moving forward, we're hoping, that at some point, maybe next season, uh, potentially the season after. Ideally, it would be next season,
Yeah.
but rugby will be back, and you're a pretty key member of Team BC at this point. What's your experience been like within our BC provincial team and being a part of that group?
From the BC provincial D2 to D1 team, everyone's just so awesome. We're like one big family. With our D1 team, I feel like we're in a good spot. I mean, we have Trevor Hirschfield and Byron Green, two pretty prominent members of Team Canada. So they're the vets on the team, and they kind of lead the way, and they really teach the rest of the members of the team lots of good lessons on and off the court. Then we have, Pete, Jess, and Drew, who've been on the D1 team for a while now too. So they've got some good experience, and they've been able to teach me quite a bit since I started playing there. And then we got the young guns, me and Joel. So it's fun to play with him. And then we also have Will, who's an up and comer as well. So I feel like we have a really good balance in our team, and I think just with the more time we get to compete together, I think the more successful we'll be. So I'm really excited to see where we can take things once we're able to get back to games and tournaments.
Nice. And I guess for you, what are your goals going forward in rugby? Aside from getting back to tournaments and hopefully winning a few games, what is it that keeps you going and keeps you wanting to improve now?
Well, I just want to continue to get stronger and faster in my rugby chair, and just learn the game more. Just really, kind of become a master of the game as far as like of plays, and just learning when to do the right things on the court. And I think that's just going to come with time, and with me putting in the work. And then long-term goal would definitely be to make the Canadian national team, and then also compete at a Paralympics. I think that anytime you get to wear the maple leaf on your jersey is an incredible honor, and that's kind of something that really keeps me motivated to continue training and working hard. I really want to get to that point.
Awesome. All right. Well, Brandon, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak to me today and being a part of the BC Wiltshire Sports Show. Thank you so much for that. And I look forward to seeing you on the court again whenever we can get back to it. I think it's been great kind of seeing your progress throughout your career from back in the early club days a few years ago where I actually could guard you to now where you can just smash past me and push up the court with no real problems. It's been great to see, and it's always good to see when an athlete really decides to give it their all. And I think we definitely see that with you. So yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for joining the show. If you've got anything else to say, now's kind of your time to do so. If there's anything you want to plug,
Well,
anything you want to mention.
yeah, first I just want to say thanks for having me on here. It's been fun getting to chat with you and chat about rugby again. And I would just say, for anyone out there who's maybe hesitant about trying, wheelchair sports, I would highly recommend it. There's so many positive benefits to it. Getting out of the house, maybe, being a little bit more active. You get to meet lots of incredible new people, and for me, lots of my best friends have come from wheelchair sports. So I would highly recommend anyone who's thinking about it just to go out and give it a try. It doesn't necessarily have to turn into something where you want to make the national team in your respective sport, but just getting out and having fun and being social is such an important aspect of life. And wheelchair sports is just so great for your not only your physical health but your mental health as well. So And, if anyone has any questions, I'm sure there's lots of people you can reach out to, but I'm always available if anyone wants to talk sports.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was awesome, Brandon. I really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this interview and you want more BC Wheelchair Sports content, be sure to follow us across our social media channels. We're on Facebook at BCWSA, on Twitter at BCWSA, on Instagram at BC Wheelchair Sports, and we're also on YouTube at BCWSA. You can also find this show anywhere you find your podcast. So Spotify, Apple Podcast, all of that. We're still in our early stages, so please let us know if you're enjoying the show and if there's something else that you'd like to learn or a guest that you'd like to see on the BC Wheelchair Sports Show. Thank you to Brandon for being our guest, and thank you to all of you for tuning in. I'm Nate, and I'm signing off on this episode. See you all next week.